Hi, today we are talking about back to school essentials for music teachers. I'm going to start off by saying that it is super easy to get swept up in the consumerism of being a teacher, which sounds insane saying that out loud, but it's true. You go online and you see all of these like beautiful Pinterest classrooms, and like everything's coordinated and every inch of the classroom is covered, and like it's beautiful, but at the same time, we know that there are studies that say it's not as good for kids or even adults. It's overwhelming. It's harder to pay attention when everything is covered. It's actually not as good for us. But then like you see, like, especially if you're a newer teacher, you see people who are like doing all these things and they have all these great activities and it's coordinated in like these little like boxes, and everything matches, and now I'm not saying that we don't spend money for our classrooms, because in reality we know we do, and I definitely have. But it is it's not the most important thing out there. And I want to talk about the things that we actually do need, instead of, breaking the bank on like hundreds of dollars of classroom decor. So let's talk about decor first. You need one or two bulletin boards. Like, one of them should be those essentials like, lockdown, fire, tornado, drills. What do they do for that? Any sort of like school documents that have to be displayed. If you have like a spot where you have like a number chart with like classroom numbers, like if all the students in the different classrooms have like, what is your number? Like, you can use that for multiple grades and multiple classes. You don't have to switch that out, which is really nice. You should have like classroom rules, like easily readable, like not tons and tons of words, especially your younger students. That will be overwhelming. Like, real quick hit, like, here's your few rules. If you want a bulletin board that's, seasonal or something that you're going to refer to often, like I had my Mount Solfege up because I referred to it all the time. Something that's real useful on a day-to-day basis, or something cute and seasonal, like just so you have something up there. And they can be bright. They don't need to be super covered all over the place. You also need empty space. So there should be space where you can look at a wall and there's like nothing on the wall. In fact, that's one of the reasons I'm recording facing this way, is because if you could see the wall behind me, where I've done videos in the past, like, it is all like, my bookshelf is like that whole wall, and it's just so much up there right now, and they're messy on top of it right now because I've been like shoving stuff in there. Like, I need to clean. But you need empty space. Like, this is like literally the only empty space in my office, and that's not okay. But that's my office, and I'm not subjecting like a classroom of children to it. You need some calming elements. If you put like those covers over the lights, like those fluorescent light covers, because those are awful and just so bright. Having a few lamps around the room so that you can turn the overheads off if you want, to have some soft lighting. Greenery works really well for some calming elements. I can't keep plants alive for the life of me, so I always had fake, but it still kind of gives that vibe off. If you have rugs, or if you have like cute like seating, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be like, the school supply sort of like flex seating, just some things that feel a little more warm and less sterile. Those are helpful. And then having like, a spot where students can have a moment of silence. I've written a blog post before about a peace table, and I will link that in my description so you can read that. That's something that I learned when I was teaching in Montessori. It's really nice because you can use it as a spot for students to go and solve their little arguments that happen in the classroom, but you can also use it as a spot for, I need a moment. So having some calming things are helpful like that. And then likely you'll want some anchor charts. I will link this anchor chart stand that I've made out of like pipe that I got at Lowe's, and I used metal pipe because I wanted it to be like super duper heavy duty. I had a lot on there and I didn't want it to kind of buckle, but you could definitely make it out of PVC, which would be more cost effective. And it's great because you can just flip to the chart you need. You don't have, 6 grades, or if you teach even further expanded, like my classroom was pre-K 8, so I had stuff for like 12 grades on these anchor charts. So I didn't want everything up on the walls all of the time, and this was a really nice way to kind of limit what was out, and it was not overwhelming. So, but otherwise, put them up, have a few spots where you have anchor charts. You don't need anchor charts covering every single spot in your wall. You don't need a word wall covering like the whole wall on the other side. Use pocket charts for word walls. You can even use like a pocket chart per grade so that you don't have, every single word up all of the time. And it's just, bring out the grade that's there. Essentials. You need office supplies. You need, a binder for student information, medical things, stuff that's, emergency cards, IEPs. If it's one binder or if it's just a couple, you need them somewhere safe and locked up so that, student information is protected. Ideally, this would be in a spot that is near where you are in your room for lockdowns so that you can easily access it. All of those sort of like school official paperwork things that you need to hold on to. You need a folder or something to organize those. You need a spot to keep original copies of worksheets and things that you can create. Just write a little O in like yellow highlighter in the top corner or the bottom corner or wherever, so that when you copy it, it's not super obvious. But then that way you can see, okay, this is my original, and then just put it back in the folder. You can save it for next year. You don't have to reprint because it's already saved in your folder for that grade. You need a small stash of writing supplies. I definitely bought in for a while, and I had like pens everywhere and cute colored markers, and like they were everywhere. And here's the thing. A lot of them dried out before I used them because I didn't use them that much, or my page of notes was like insane looking and I couldn't find what I was looking for because there was too many colors. There was too much going on. You don't need, the entire supply that is in the office like aisle. Like, you don't need every single pen. And I know that's hard to hear for some people. And I finally convinced myself to stop buying, spending money on them because I wasn't using them. You need a stapler, a small supply of like binder clips, paper clips, tape, pair of scissors or two. I wish I had like right by me so I could show you. I love these little, I'll put a picture here for you. I love these little scissors because they have a little cap. They're easy to put in my bag. I don't worry about getting poked, and all my things are protected, but they're easy to carry. So I love these scissors. In fact, I keep some of them in my own bag, and I've had them in the car for like traveling. They're really useful for things like that. You need a good bag, something that you can carry your stuff every single day. It doesn't need to be, a massive bog bag or like a laundry bag that like you're putting all of this stuff in, because you don't need that much stuff. Like we've talked about leaving stuff at school. So get a bag that just can handle like your day-to-day, like if you're bringing your laptop home, your iPad, like, your lunchbox, a notebook. You need a place to store student work. So we've like drawers, file boxes, something like that, so that you can store their work from week to week. A few good tools that you need. You need an app. It's, what is it? Idoseo. I'm not exactly sure how you say it, but I love this app. And this app is great because you can put class lists in, you can take pictures of students and like put it into a seating chart and arrange it how you want it. It's great. It's great for on the go, like your students are playing a game and you're checking off who's done it, or you know, if they are able to sing it in tune. It's great for like those quick on the fly assessments. That's a great app. I love GoodNotes. That one is fabulous for like note taking. It's got staff paper. I've taken all of my notes for levels on that, and you know, I can just export it as a PDF and then throw it into my documents, which is great, so I can refer to it easily. I will use that every time I'm at a conference. I'll just upload everything into one document from like MMC 2026, MMC 2027. Like I've got, you know, all of those handouts in one spot. You need a good like to-do list app if you're, I've used Todoist in the past, although I've moved to like, I've talked about my little notebook before. I've moved to that just because I can take it with me and I don't have to like pull out my phone to check something off. But it's something you can use to keep track of like your little to-do list. And it's good for school things. Now let's talk about the non-physical things that you need. And these are more important than the physical things we just talked about. So you need a classroom management plan, and a solid one. Right? We've taught the book Classroom Management for Art, Music, and PE Teachers. It's a little orange book. This one, that's a great book to start with. The Responsive Music Classroom is another one. Those are some really good classroom management books. And whatever plan you come up with, however you explain it to your students, needs to be simple enough for even your kindergarten and pre-K students to understand. Other non-physical things is a grading plan. I'm very big on grading students based on participation in K-5. Like as they get a little towards upper L, then it does change a little bit. And anytime I've assessed students on like a skill, I make it worth like 1 point out of 1 point equal to everything else, just so parents can keep track of like, okay, my student is doing this or is not doing this. You know, they are currently attaining this. Like I don't want it to feel like I'm bad at this. Like, no, we are either working on it or you have figured it out. You need procedures. And then the big one, you need a curriculum. Those are like the kind of like really big deal things that you need from your day to day. The physical things are not as important in terms of like essentials and what you need, and like they are not the things that you need compared to curriculum classroom management plan. It's great if you have a room, you have like those physical things. If you're traveling, which I've done before extensively, you know, like multiple schools, multiple districts, you know, one school on my lunch from the other school and then back. You don't have a classroom to decorate. You don't have bulletin boards. You don't have anchor charts. And I could still teach music without all of those things. So when I say essentials, I mean like your essentials if you have a room and you want it to look not bare bones. Other essentials that you need are things that make your life easier. You know, get yourself something to plan your curriculum, something for your, you know, rubrics for grading, something to keep you organized. Those are the things that are really important in your classroom. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind, is that the things that are really essential have nothing to do with our physical space. And that's why it's important to remind ourselves not to get caught up in the consumerism of being a teacher. So I hope this has given you a few ideas about essentials and maybe given you a bit of relief about not feeling like you have to do everything and make it look a certain way. So if this video resonated with you, I would love it if you like, share, or subscribe. And thanks so much if you've made it this far.